Almarai Company, in collaboration with Competitive Manpower, is urgently hiring for the following exciting roles: Grade 1 mechanics, panel beaters, refrigeration technicians, lead mechanics, diesel plant mechanics, welders, and stainless steel welders. Why apply? This is a free recruitment with no application or placement fees required. Contact us today on 0721 506627 or 0733 392180. You can also visit us at WANGUTUSI Plaza, Kikorok Road. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@competitivemanpower.com. Apply now. Limited slots available.
Welcome to Competitive Training Institute, empowering you with in-demand skills. At Competitive Training Institute, we equip you with practical, job-ready skills that open doors both locally and internationally. Whether you're aiming to become a qualified caregiver, certified plumber, skilled automotive mechanic, or want to learn a foreign language like French, Arabic, or German, and many more, we've got the right course for you. Our hands-on training, guided by experienced instructors and aligned with market demands, ensures you're ready to compete and succeed in today's job market. We don't just train, we help you get hired. Our job placement team supports you in finding meaningful work after graduation. We are proudly accredited by NITA, ensuring high standards in all we offer. Ready to begin? Call us on 020-200-192 or 0721 223081, or email us at competitivetraining@gmail.com. Your journey starts here. Let's build your future together.
Join our team at AYTB in partnership with Competitive Manpower. AYTB is seeking qualified candidates for the following positions: technical advisor, QA or QC personnel, shop coordinator, report organizer, rotating equipment repair technician, valve overhaul technician, machining technician.
Contact us today on 0721 506627 or 0733 392180. You can also visit us at WANGUTUSI Plaza, Kikorok Road. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@competitivemanpower.com. Apply now. Limited slots available.
Hello and welcome on this May 1st, 2025. This is Labor Day. My name is RAPH. WANGUTUSI.
My name is DANFLOW, LINDWE.
And we are coming to you live from our CBS News studios to bring to you the events of what is taking place today. The Labor Day celebrations are currently taking place at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi, and we will be keeping you updated on all that. However, it's still the morning hours. If you are just catching up with us, we will be taking you through the newspaper headlines that we have for you, and also getting into the stories inside. So first on the Daily Nation is Ruto's finance bill puzzle.
And on the Standard, on the Standard newspaper, Ruto's land question.
Nice. And lastly on the Taifa Leo is Atarukwa Tena. So starting with the Daily Nation, Ruto's finance bill puzzle, the story reads, keen to appease the public and stem the anger that triggered deadly anti-tax protests last June, which culminated in Parliament's invasion. So Cabinet has promised lower taxes in the coming financial year, but the Finance Bill 2025 presented to the House yesterday was not available for scrutiny. This story is on page 4, and according to this, also the next steps are that under the Public Finance Management Act, the National Treasury must submit the finance bill to the National Assembly by April 30th. That was yesterday. The proposed law on revenue-raising measures to finance the annual budget has been referred to the Department Committee on Finance and National Planning for consideration and facilitation of public participation. So the whole conversation now is on finance bill matters. Today being Labor Day, it's also matters finance and what is going back to the employees or the employer, the employees' pocket at the end of the day. The bottom of the Daily Nation is now labor pain as workers pay cut by many levies. So as Kenyans today mark this year's Labor Day, there is growing concern that a majority of salaried workers are taking home less than a third of their net salary. And due to new statutory deductions in contravention to local and international laws, so Kenya risks censure by global labor body. There are about 100,000 employees in the national and county governments whose pay had breached a third rule by 2023. So these are the current statistics when it comes to labor in the country, and that's what is happening. That's what we'll also be updating you on. Lastly, at the top of the Daily Nation is big win for protesters over hooded plainclothes police. So the courts yesterday on Wednesday decided that no more plainclothes officers when managing protests, and all police must be able to identify themselves in their uniform and not covering their face. Jitters over grade 9 tests for senior school admissions is the last story there on the back page of the Daily Nation. That's what we'll be running through today.
And here in the Standard newspaper, the top story reads Ruto's land question. And there's a picture of the president in his farm with his cattle, looking at his maize actually. And it reads unpresidential. So President William Ruto's name has recently been linked to land disputes across various parts of the country, from Taveta to Naivasha and now Narok. Before becoming president, Ruto served as an MP and later as minister, during which time he was involved in several land-related court battles, some of which he won and others he lost. Kenyans are now questioning these entanglements that seem to contradict the constitutional demand for dignity in the office of the president. The story goes on page 4. Another story being highlighted on the Standard newspaper, on my top left, actually the age-old riddle of Kotu, and it reads, today's Labor Day celebrations come at a time when trade unionism in the country is under sharp scrutiny, with workers now saying they no longer have a strong voice to represent them as they once did. The story goes on pages 6, 7, 8, and 9. Another headline and the Standard newspaper is Kasipul MP Ongondo were shot dead in city. The story is on page 22. We broke that news to you yesterday during our 9 p.m. bulletin. We also have more updates about that on our social media pages. Please ensure to check that out. Yes,
and now on Taifa Leo, atarukwa tena, that's the headline. Wafuasi wa kinara wa Wiper Kalonzo Musyoka wasema ameiva kubeba mwenge wa muungano unaosukwa. On the bottom it says anasifika kama mwanasiasa mwenye hulka ya kutotabirika maarufu kama watermelon, lakini aliwahi kumuunga mkono Rais Mwai Kibaki serikali yake ilipoyumbisha na upinzani mkali kutoka kwa Raila Odinga, kisha akamuunga mkono Raila Odinga mara 3. Swali lililo vinywani mwa wafuasi wake ni atatupa tena kipuni azma yake ya kuingia Ikulu na kuunga kigogo mwingine mwaka wa 2027. That is the story on Taifa Leo, basically highlighting if Kalonzo Musyoka will support Fred Matiang'i for the presidential seat, because yesterday what we were highlighting is that there is now conflict. We have all these political leaders under one umbrella, being the new opposition party in the country. But now, having such strong political leaders also begs to question who will be the main flag bearer. So that's what is being discussed in the headline here on Taifa Leo. Hapo juu inasema wakataa mwaliko wa Ruto Ikulu, mkutano wa viongozi kutoka Meru ahirishwa dakika za mwisho. Iko ukurasa wa 2. Alafu kando yake inasema watu 11 wafidiwa kwa mateso fujo za Gen Z, waandamanaji 11 wafidiwa 1200 ya 1,200 kila mmoja baada ya polisi kukiuka haki zao. This was based on the finance bill protest in June 2024. Chini yake inasoma handisheki ya Uhuru na Kirigathi yaja. Wawili hao ambao wamewahi kufanya kazi pamoja wanaonekana kuzika tofauti zao. Ukurasa wa 3. Na mwishowe ni vidonge vya uzazi vya waume njiani. So vidonge vya YCT 529 vina ufanisi wa asilimia 99 katika kuzuia ujauzito. Sasa mwishowe katika spoti ni Arteta akiri PSG ndio wale wabaya. Kocha wa Arsenal asema kuna haja ya kubadili mbinu kudhibiti PSG katika ukurasa wa 20. So those are the stories that you have for you on the headlines. Taifa Leo is leading on that, and we can now get deeper into the stories.
Now, in the Standard newspaper, the top story about Ruto's land question. Now, on page 4, the story continues, and the headline reads, President's growing land rose threaten public trust. Angry Narok residents demand President Ruto clarify his alleged involvement in the 6,300-acre land dispute. Observers find it troubling that the president's name continues to surface in land disputes and other property-related scandals. So silence from President William Ruto and his handlers after he was adversely mentioned in a bloody land ownership dispute involving 6,300 acres in Narok is mind-boggling. So given his position as the country's chief executive, being linked to police-led violence does little to inspire public confidence. Instead, it undermines the honor and trust Kenyans have placed in the presidency. And a quote here by one of the residents in Narok, it reads, if the president wants the land, he should acquire it legally. If they don't want us here, then let them take us back to our ancestral land in Kericho, from which our fathers were evicted by white settlers. So that is it's a damning story, a damning allegation actually, and we are hoping maybe the president can come out to respond to these allegations one of these days. So from the incident in Narok Barakoi, 6 people were shot dead by police as kin cry for justice. So this happened on Monday. We have been reporting this, we've been updating you about this developing story since Monday, and the Monday incident has left the local community seething with anger. Inspector General of Police has ordered an investigation with local leaders demanding more. So the victims are Paul Parsuben from Kapsinendet village, George Rono, a teacher from Cheichei village. We have Isaiah Kipkoech, a college student from Kabusa village, Gideon Kowech, a high school student from Kipsinendet village, Nelson Rono from Rotika village, and an 8-year-old girl identified only as Maureen. So a quote here by Kilgoris MP, that is Julius Sankuli, he says, who authorized use of live bullets on unarmed residents? He asks, why was titled land being resurveyed without the owner's consent? This is abuse of state power, he says.
Nice. And now back to matters Labor and Labor Day. As we started off, today is May 1st. Labor Day, the main event is happening at Uhuru Gardens, about to be kicking off in a few minutes actually. And on the Standard newspaper, the story reads, why Kenya risks censure by global labor body over rising deductions on employees' pay. So labor experts say the cumulative effect of these deductions violates the International Labour Organization convictions, particularly the Protection of Wages Convention, which Kenya has ratified. So just for the statistics, Kenyans say they are suffering. Among the most recent changes to the law is the doubling of NSSF contributions for workers earning above 36,000 Kenyan shillings, set to increase from 2,160 shillings to 4,320 shillings. So this comes in effect this actually came in effect from last month, and the rising statutory deductions are poised to push even more salaried workers into taking home meager pay. According to the Auditor General report for the year ending June 2024, the number of county government employees taking home less than a third of their gross salary has more than doubled from 8,515 shillings to 21,700 647. So similarly, in 2023, the Public Service Commission reported that out of 300,000 public servants, 82,577 were earning below the 1/3 threshold after deductions. So this is quite damning. We've been talking about different labor-related activities, and this day especially, this is the highlight of the conversation. Increased taxes, what are employees taking home, what is the finance bill going to do for the everyday earning Kenyans, and what will be done about the minimum wage bill. So what we know so far is that there's supposed to be a revision of the minimum wage bill. According to the status right now in Kenya, it's about 15,000 Kenyan shillings is the set minimum wage for every single Kenyan. But now that we're talking about Kenyans taking home only a third, you can only calculate how much is actually going to the pocket of the Kenyans. So that is the main story here on the Daily Nation on the top. But now lower beneath that is the judiciary seeks to empower magistrates in workplace injury compensation. So still matters workplace. Different injuries can take place at work, and according to the judiciary now, data from the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services at the Ministry of Labour shows that over the past 9 months, 5,914 workers were involved in workplace accidents, 259 of which were fatal. So in the previous financial year, this is 2023 to 2024, 6,963 occupational accidents, were reported, with 241 of those cases resulting in deaths. So you can just imagine how serious this topic is and how much more should be done in relation to that. So that is just what is highlighting today's topics for us.
Now, in the Standard newspaper, still on Labor Day celebrations, there's a headline here, Atwoli, a political wheeler-dealer disguised as workers' defender. That is on page 8. And another story still on Labor on page 9, Labor pains as Atwoli ages and workers' wages remain stagnant. So on this, the Standard goes on to say, Kotu board wants Atwoli to cling on to power despite 24 years at the helm of the Kotu. Being the Kotu Secretary General. Some unionists accuse Atwoli of abandoning workers for political expediency. So at 75, Atwoli, the long-serving Secretary General of the Central Organization of Trade Unions, faces mounting scrutiny over his tenure. So despite his age, Atwoli's supporters argue he remains vibrant and essential to Kenya's labor movement. Remember, he is 75 years old now, so he may seem the oldest locally, but globally he's among the youngest trade leaders, said Moses Ndiema, a Kotu board member, on Tuesday. We love him, and the board's decision to back Atwoli is firm. So remember, Atwoli has been at the helm of the Kotu as the Kotu Secretary General for 24 years right now, and will he get another term? The board is pushing for another term, and it says he is the youngest trade leader globally. And a quote here by Moses Otieno, a Protective Guard Association of Kenya. He says, Atwoli has taken advantage of workers' vulnerabilities and the labor movement fragmentation for personal gain. Still on labor, back to page 8 of the story. So Atwoli, a political wheeler-dealer disguised as workers' defender, and it reads, once a workers' right champion, long-serving Kotu boss now protects the powerful. He barely addresses issues facing workers like stagnant wages, mass layoffs, and high taxation. And a quote by Francis Atwoli reads, there is this thing called social media. It is not in China, it is controlled. The churches must speak about social media. The church must speak about TikTok. We can't have such a society. Remember, particularly on social media, Kenyans youth have been coming out to criticize political leaders from all parts of the country for their, and Kenyans are actually analyzing. You know, one thing social media did, it gave Kenyans the power to respond to anything that is happening in the country. For us here in mainstream media, we may have, for example, an article may be written on the newspaper, but Kenyans don't have, there's no way they can respond to it, to this newspaper. But social media gave power to the Kenyans, and we are seeing a rise in political leaders calling on the government to tame the use of social media due to the increasing criticism from Kenyans. But so among them is actually the Court Secretary General, that is Francis Atwoli. So the story reads, for a man who built his name championing Kenyans working class, Francis Atwoli now appears more at ease, seated beside power, than protesting at its gates in defending workers' rights. At 75, the long-serving Secretary General of Court is no longer the fiery labor crusader he once portrayed himself to be. Instead, he has become a seasoned political operator, skilled at aligning with presidents, forging alliances, and staunchly defending policies that often undermine the very workers he is meant to represent. So we are hoping to see, have we ever seen Atwoli actually come out to speak on the taxes, increasing taxes?
Well, interesting fact. Let's wait and see if Atwoli will actually speak on matters taxes today. And still on matters taxes, Ruto's finance bill puzzle. So Cabinet has promised lower taxes in the next fiscal year, even as the Finance Bill 2025 remains akin to a state secret in the hands of few trusted bureaucrats. So yesterday in Parliament, we saw that the members were actually now talking publicly about the Finance Bill, which they have so far approved. However, the exact figure is not yet publicly disclosed. Now, according to this story, key provisions include streamlining tax refund processes, sealing legal gaps that delay revenue collection, and reducing tax disputes by amending the Income Tax, VAT Act, Excise Duty Act, and the Tax Procedures Act. So this is according to Cabinet. And keen to stay ahead of another angry June like happened last year when anti-tax protesters invaded Parliament, the Cabinet has promised lower taxes in the fiscal year, even as the Finance Bill 2025 remains akin to a state secret in the hands of a few trusted bureaucrats. So neither President William Ruto's Cabinet, the National Assembly, nor National Treasury have availed the document for public scrutiny. However, yesterday we saw different MPs talking about how no disputing facts should be released about the finance bill, about how MPs should not go saying they are rejecting a bill just because they want to seem politically correct, yet everything that they have shared publicly so far is not worth rejecting. Because according to Treasury CS John Buddy and PS Chris Kipto, they have also not yet responded to a copy of the Finance Bill 2025 by the time this story was going to press. So there's a bit of secrecy. Is it in a bid to control the tension, considering that just earlier this week there was a public expose by the BBC called Blood Parliament? Is it in a bid to also just try and correct the messes made last year? Because now they also talked about reducing the budget from not really reaching 4.3 trillion as was last year, and also saying the country will no longer be depending on the IMF for any specific loans, and how every single project will be built by the government money. So that is exactly what has been disclosed so far by the government, and this is all on matters taxes. However, we've not heard anything about this from COTU leader Francis Atwoli.
Yes.
It was just earlier in the week that he said he is going to resign, and then the following day he is still staying on power. So interesting things happening.
Indeed, interesting things. But I think the move by the government not to expose the 2025 finance bill shows that they understand how aware Kenyans are. Now more than ever, Kenyans are waiting for that bill. And everyone is eager. What are the changes? Are there any tax increments? Are there deductions? What will be different this year? Will Kenyans still go to the streets? I'm sure the government is actually fearful of that. That is why the bill is remaining to be a secret. It's being treated like a secret, yet it's actually a matter of public interest.
Yes.
So actually, the 2024 finance bill, it woke people up. You know, now everyone is interested in what is happening around them, the policies being passed in Parliament, and definitely even the MPs know Kenyans are eagerly waiting for that bill.
Yes, indeed. And even right now at Uhuru Gardens, Kenyans keep streaming in to witness and take part in this year's labor celebrations. We will be keeping you updated on that and what is happening. Currently, it is still warming up. People are getting in, people streaming in, and we'll be keeping you updated on that. However, for now, in this moment, allow us to take a quick break, and we will continue with you in just a moment to update you on this and other stories developing. Stay with us.
Welcome to Competitive Training Institute, empowering you with in-demand skills. At Competitive Training Institute, we equip you with practical, job-ready skills that open doors both locally and internationally. Whether you're aiming to become a qualified caregiver, certified plumber, skilled automotive mechanic, or want to learn a foreign language like French, Arabic, or German, and many more, we've got the right course for you. Our hands-on training, guided by experienced instructors and aligned with market demands, ensures you're ready to compete and succeed in today's job market. We don't just train, we help you get hired. Our job placement team supports you in finding meaningful work after graduation. We are proudly accredited by NITA, ensuring high standards in all we offer. Ready to begin? Call us on 020-200-192. or 0721-223081, or email us at competitivetraining@gmail.com. Your journey starts here. Let's build your future together.
Looking for a trusted supplier for all your household hardware needs? Look no further than Competitive Hardware Limited. We provide top quality building materials including cement, all types of iron sheets, paints, PPR and PVC pipes, electric pipes, building grills, BRC and square till in various sizes. Need interior and finishing materials? We've got you covered with gypsum, gypsum rails, marine boards, ceiling boards and tanks of all sizes. For fencing, we stock barbed wire, chain link and wire mesh. And the best part, we offer free countrywide delivery with our fleet of transit trucks and pickups. Your order arrives on time, every time. Visit us in Kitengela along Namanga Highway, opposite 411 stage, or at our branches in Kitisuru and Busia. For enquiries, call us on 020-2688-888 or 0733-666632 or 0721-923248. Competitive Hardware Limited, your reliable hardware supplier.
Join our team at AYTB in partnership with Competitive Manpower. AYTB is seeking qualified candidates for the following positions: Technical Advisor, QA or QC Personnel, Shop Coordinator, Report Organizer, Rotating Equipment Repair Technician, Valve Overhaul Technician, Machining Technician.
Contact us today on 0721-506627 or 0733-392180. You can also visit us at Waterseas Plaza, Kikorok Road. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@competitivemanpower.com. Apply now. Limited slots available.
Hello and welcome back to CBS Breakfast Show. This is the Morning Brew, and we are talking about matters labor today. This is Labor Day. Welcome to 1st May 2025. We are reviewing the different events and stories highlighted through labor. So what is happening on the Standard newspaper on labor today?
So an interesting story here on the Standard newspaper. This is page 7 of the Standard newspaper. The headline reads, how workers are coping with the widening salary and cost of living gap. So the minimum wage earners are barely able to make ends meet according to available data. The current minimum wage in major urban centers such as Nairobi, Mombasa and Kisumu is 15,000 shillings 120 per month. So while this figure has been adjusted over the years from a mere 1,700 shillings in 1994, it still struggles to match the estimated living wage. So basically, living wage in the income requirement for a family. Basically, living wage is the income requirement for a family to cover basic needs such as housing, food, healthcare, and education. So among the things Kenyans are doing, according to the Standard newspaper, to fill this gap of the widening cost of living and the widening salary gap is multiple income streams. So most Kenyans, particularly those in urban areas, are engaging in side hustles or looking for additional part-time work to supplement their primary income. This could involve informal trading, offering services, or taking on gig economy jobs. Another thing they're doing is informal support networks. So these are strong family and community ties, often crucial financial and support, often provide crucial financial and social support. So sharing of resources, childcare, and accommodation within extended families can help ease burden of living costs. Kenyans are also cost-cutting measures, are also undertaking cost-cutting measures. So households often adopt strict budgeting, prioritizing essential spending and foregoing non-essential items. We've also seen a report that Kenyans, since this new regime took over, Kenyans have had to do away with some luxuries to ensure that they fit into the current high cost of living. Another thing is savings and investments groups. So Kenyans are participating in informal savings and lending groups, particularly chamas is a common way of pooling resources for larger expenses such as house deposits and school fees. So migration for work. Especially those with sought after skills, Kenyans seek opportunities in other countries where wages may be higher. So though it is controversial, the government has been actively pursuing bilateral labor agreements to facilitate these. Another thing is upscaling and education. Some Kenyans are investing to further the education and vocational training to acquire more skills for employment and finally entrepreneurship. So some choose to start their own small businesses, although this path comes with its own challenges. So addressing the gap between the minimum wage and the living wage requires a multifaceted approach. This includes regular and realistic minimum wage reviews that consider the actual cost of living. So yeah, Kenyans are actually working from their end to find a way to manage the widening salary gap as well as the cost of living, according to the Standard newspaper. Still on the Standard newspaper, so health workers are sick of mounting unkept promises, and it reads, doctors threaten to join strike to help to join the striking universal health workers, nurses, if row on interns is not resolved. So 30,000 nurses are yet to have a collective bargaining agreement, while clinical officers are demanding better working conditions. So according to the Standard, we have actually been reporting to you from across different counties how nurses are holding protests demanding for better employment terms, understaffing in some hospitals, and yeah, doctors are seeking better payment, particularly this Labor Day, and they are threatening to go on a major strike.
Nice. Now, still on matters labor, just as you've highlighted the concerns about looking for jobs abroad. This is also a scandal that's been happening currently in the country that we have been highlighting for you, where the Labour CS, Ezekiel Mutua, is yet to speak on how many people have failed to get their positions abroad. They were mostly promised positions in Arab countries, the Gulf countries. This is Dubai, this is Qatar, and none of it has been answered. Even some were offered police officer jobs. So this is the crisis going on in the country. The CBA agreements, collective bargaining agreements, just as highlighted, for doctors, nurses, teachers, that is the conversation right now that is heating up across the country. Still on matters labor, but on a different meaning. Kihika resumes office after 5 months. So this is Susan Kihika, the governor of Nakuru County. That story reads on page 12 of the Daily Nation. Many residents and interest groups had questioned the governor's whereabouts. And after more than 5 months of absence from office, Nakuru Governor Susan Kihika has resumed work, chairing her first cabinet meeting this year on Tuesday. So Governor Kihika had taken maternity leave late last year, and traveled to the United States of America. Her leave ended mid last month, so her conspicuous absence in the country for nearly 5 months had a section of residents and governance lobby groups questioning her extended leave from office. So it was all matters labor, but not labor for jobs, but different labor. But now she's back in office saying, I chaired a cabinet meeting to give fresh impetus and direction to service delivery and completion of development projects in the county. So that is one of the key conversations that has also been happening across the country, and especially focusing on Nakuru County. So it's great news that Governor Susan Kihika is back. However, what does this mean now for the residents of Nakuru County? Are there especially things that are going to be resolved now that she's back in office? Will all the efforts to get her out of office now recede and lay low, or will this conversation still keep going? So that is what is happening in terms of labor in Nakuru County. So the different stories here also highlighted on the Daily Nation are on shame of Kenya's broken organ transplant laws. This is now mostly on the patients and on health. However, we've talked about how regulation bodies in terms of the medical facilities has also been lagging. Medihill Hospital was the one that was on the spotlight for this specific scam of organ transplants. So what will happen after this break and this regulation set by the new Ministry of Health CS Aden Duale? Will there be a reduction in these cases? Will there be people being taken to court? Will there be people paying for these specific pains that they've been causing to all these patients across the country? So that is what is also happening here.
So remember on the kidney saga, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, that is Aden Duale, has selected a 13-member committee to investigate these allegations of kidney trafficking and organ trafficking at the Medihill Hospital in Eldoret. And we are hoping that report comes out soon. According to Duale, that the committee is supposed to give a report in 3 months. Hopefully Kenyans will not have forgotten that saga, those allegations, and hopefully the government can ensure that all medical facilities in the country adhere strictly to the regulations surrounding organ transplant to ensure integrity, and the integrity of the medical profession is upheld. Now, another story here in the Standard newspaper, still on the labor celebrations, trapped abroad, silenced at home. The headline reads, the agony of job-seeking Kenyans. So hundreds still stuck in the country jobless despite paying and receiving offer letters. State urged to act as job-seeking Kenyans face scams locally or abuse abroad. And there's a quote here by a nurse, that is Jedida Mutiso, and she says, even after getting job offer letters, we were ordered to report to our various recruitment agency offices with a mandatory 120,000 shillings each as processing fee. So as Kenyans mark Labor Day, there is little cause for celebration for the country's working population, particularly those who have pinned their hopes on jobs abroad. So for thousands of Kenyans, both at home and overseas, Labor Day is not a moment of recognition, but a grim reminder of unfulfilled promises, systemic abuse and state failure. So in recent weeks, there has been an outcry over the rising numbers of Kenyans who have been scammed by unscrupulous recruitment agencies, and the crisis is worsened by government's entry into this clamor for abroad jobs. So remember, the Cabinet Secretary for Labor, that is Alfred Mutua, recently we saw him come out and he's pushing for Kenyans, he's pushing for labor migration, which Kenyans feel that they want jobs. The government ought to create jobs in the country and not to migrate, to push Kenyans into other countries where they keep facing abuse. Remember, we have had many incidences of Kenyans being returned in body bags, yet they went to foreign countries as workers. They're coming back malnutritioned. We've had cases where they've been facing, others even die, and autopsy reports reveal that there was nothing in the stomach. They died of hunger. Very interesting, very sad stories actually. And so both at home and abroad, Kenyans are decrying, particularly job-seeking Kenyans. There's agony in the sector of employment. Currently, the unemployment rate in Kenya is at 65%, and this majorly affects youth, with women standing twice. Women face unemployment twice as often as men. So hopefully the Kenyan government can find a way of creating jobs here in the country.
Indeed, and still on matters labor and employment. Now, being Labor Day, considering the questions that we're talking about, as a viewer here right now, let us know on our social media platforms across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Do Kenyans have a reason to celebrate this Labor Day? Do the regulations that currently exist favor Kenyan employees, or is there still a long way to go? So key among the issues is the money going back to the pockets of the earners. And on business matters this Labor Day is inflation rises at its fastest pace in 2.5 years. So Kenya's inflation rose at the fastest according to right now until April, where it has reached a high of 4.1% on higher food, electricity, and transportation prices. So we've seen just recently EPRA, the Energy and Petroleum Regulation Authority, reducing the cost of petrol, diesel, and kerosene. However, that's still not making it any easier for the Kenyans. So the 0.5 percentage point increase from 3.6% in March was the highest margin of growth on a month-to-month basis since September 2022. This is data from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, KEBS, that shows. So on the food baskets, the key drivers were potatoes and maize, while prices of perishable vegetables such as kale, this is sukuma wiki, cabbages, and traditional vegetables fell due to favorable weather conditions following the onset of the rainy season. So the rainy season has made foodstuffs cheaper. However, there is a lot that is happening in terms of maize production and the different fees that are affected there. We've also seen an increase in tariffs. So producers in the country, textile guys, anyone exporting produce to the United States, the tariffs will also eat up on the money that is being made. So the inflation rate is just keeping increasing. And moving on to teachers, the top income rise survey is in tough economy. So workers in the education sector have defied a national stagnation in incomes and spending over the last year to post the sharpest improvement in both. So a new consumer survey shows 25,000 is the number of teachers that were promoted in the current financial year. We highlighted this story just a few weeks ago, where 25,000 teachers have been employed. MPs are calling, asking questions why they've actually been given these jobs. Is there enough money for this? And counties are also coming out saying, we need these bursaries, we need the NGCDF so that we can send the students to schools. This week, let's not forget, is back to school week. Students are getting to school, Teachers are supposed to be in school. Teachers are not getting paid well. There's just so much happening across the country, and this is some of the data reported here. Now, 38% is the proportion of Kenyans who saw incomes stagnate in the last 1 year. But it's not all gloom and doom for laborers in the country, because even just in line with business, we've been talking about how Gen Zs are set to be the highest spenders in between now and 2030. So there's this new generation getting into the economy, pumping in money into the economy in different ways, not just the formal sector, but also the informal sector. And that, or those are some of the stories highlighted in Labor in Business today.
And still on matters business, so private firms sack workers as state wage bill continues to rise. On page 9 of the Standard newspaper, so the story basically highlights how private firms have been putting out redundancy notices. Recently, we saw a redundancy notice from KK Security, from G4S, Tile and Carpet. These are big firms in the country, and they issued redundancy notices, meaning that the unemployment rate will continue to increase. And some of these companies are citing an unfavorable business environment. We've also seen companies, particularly private firms, pulling out of the Kenyan market in the last 2 years. So according to the Standard newspaper, the government appears unable to tame its spending, with revelations that the public service wage bill went up by a whopping 5 billion shillings this year, even as private sector has been forced to offload workers. So several companies have laid off workers in the last 2 years, with a majority of them citing a difficult business environment associated with increased taxes. Remember, the government introduced the affordable housing levy. That was a new tax that had not been there previously, and it also enhanced the National Social Security Fund and the Social Health Insurance Fund deductions, which have raised the cost of labor as employers are required to match what the employees contribute. So due to a decline in, this is a quote by Tile and Carpet dated November last year. This was their redundancy notice, and the company said due to a decline in production demand, economic challenges, and strategic realignment, it has become necessary to downsize operations at our production plant to maintain the company's long-term viability. So by January of this year, 5,567 workers had been sent home, according to the Federation of Kenya Employers. So, but while private firms are struggling, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary, that is John Mbadi, detailed how the government's wage bill increased in just 2 months, citing recruitment of junior secondary school teachers. So that is definitely an interesting story. In as much as the Kenyans are struggling with seeing private companies leave the country, some of them decrying the increased taxes which employers are supposed to match, and this will definitely increase the unemployment rate in the country. An unfavorable business environment will definitely chase away more investors. And as we have been seeing, and reports have been highlighted on our dailies, we've been seeing reports of even questions being asked: are our neighbors in Uganda, Tanzania, here in East Africa, will they now become, will their economies grow beyond that of Kenya? Remember, Nairobi, particularly Kenya, has been known to be an economic hub, a business hub, and now investors are going into other countries in East Africa, such as Tanzania and Uganda, and we're hoping maybe soon the government can react to this to ensure that they create a favorable environment. Remember, it is not the duty of the government to actually provide Kenyans employment. Their duty is to create to put in place policies that create a positive and an encouraging business environment, to encourage investors from outside the country, and as well for local businesses to thrive. So, and we'll be telling you how that goes. Remember, since 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic struck, we have been having a decline in the economic surgence in the country, and since that time, so particularly in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic was blamed for the poor business environment due to the challenges being brought about by the quarantine. But now it's been years, 5 years later, and the business economy, the business environment in the country is yet to pick up. In fact, it's getting worse.
It is getting worse indeed, and since it's Labor Day, we have been highlighting different cases, just as DANFLOW has stated, on employment policies, taxes on pay slips, increased inflation, and the event is taking place at Uhuru Gardens today, where different government officials are expected to be there to talk about these challenges, to talk about the CBAs across every sector. So we've also talked about employment opportunities abroad, scams by government agencies, scams by foreign employment agencies. These are just some of the stories we are highlighting today. This is from this morning across all our bulletins throughout the day until 9 p.m. tonight. So Employment Labor Relations Court is also set to improve verdict time to 60 days because currently it's 1 year, or it takes about 1 year for you to get any verdict in case you take a case to court relating to your employment labor relations. So pardon me on that. That is just one of the things that we also look forward to hearing from the leaders who will be speaking at the Uhuru Gardens Labor Day celebrations today. The new collective bargaining agreement also, the negotiations are set to end in June. This is specifically for UASU. This is the university's academic staff union members. And this is another key department that has also been facing challenges. University lecturers. Moi University has been on the spot. University of Nairobi has also been on the spot. Like we are seeing a resurgence of some cases here, and we are waiting to see how the funding will be. The teachers recently complained about not having access to SHA. Will this be communicated? Will this be addressed in the new CBA for the teachers? Minimum wage bill implementation for 2025. Just earlier on, we've talked about how it is currently set or supposed to be set at 15,201 per month. Is that really the case? Is that really the figure for all Kenyans across the country? Tell us your feedback. Share with us across our social media platforms, right here on YouTube or on our YouTube channel, on our Instagram, our Facebook, and also on our X accounts and Facebook. Keep us updated on what you think. Is this right? Is there any change that will be expected? These are just some of the stories that we have highlighted for you today, and we will be keeping you updated on that across the day. Anything else to add?
I think I'll just highlight here a small story about business still. So, fresh plan to revive key railway after 25 years. So the Voi Mwatate Taita, the Voi Mwatate Taveta railway line will cut the distance from Mombasa to Rwanda through Tanzania. So the construction of the one-stop border post at Holili in Taveta was supposed to boost trade between Kenya and Tanzania. The construction of the Voi Taveta is a plus. So this is a quote by Customs Agent Isabella Nyaga. So the story reads, the revival of the collapsed Voi Mwatate Taveta railway line will start in the next 6 months, linking the port of Mombasa and the markets of northern Tanzania. So this follows the meeting between Taita Taveta Governor, that is Andrew Mwadime, and the Kenya Railways Corporation. So the line will also cut the distance from Mombasa to Rwanda through Tanzania. The volume of Tanzania cargo through Mombasa is on steady rise due to the operational inefficiencies at the port of Dar es Salaam. So last year, Mombasa handled 8,325 two-foot equivalent units of Tanzania cargo, representing a 62% growth from 5,131 handled in 2022. So remember, as we have been saying, our neighbors in Tanzania and Uganda are getting more business, and it is the Kenyan business environment is proving to be unwelcoming and it is not encouraging investors in the country. And as we're seeing here, Tanzania is actually, from these statistics, Tanzania's trade is on the rise with a fresh plan to revive a key railway which has stalled for 25 years. Hopefully Kenya can go back to being a major economy hub in East Africa.
Yes, and that is one, or at least those are all the stories that we have for you this morning. This has been the newspaper review. Be sure to stay with us as we highlight these and more stories as they develop across our bulletins. That is at 1 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. This is still Labor Day. Stay with us. We will be bringing you more on what is happening across the country. My name is RAPH WANGUTUSI.
My name is DANFLOW, LINDWE, and remember, the universe submits to your will.
Stay with us. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Almarai Company, in collaboration with Competitive Manpower, is urgently hiring for the following exciting roles: Grade 1 mechanics, panel beaters, refrigeration technicians, lead mechanics, diesel plant mechanics, welders and stainless steel welders. Why apply? This is a free recruitment with no application or placement fees required. Contact us today on 0721 50 6627 or 0733 392180. You can also visit us at WANGUTUSI Plaza, Kikorok Road. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@competitivemanpower.com. Apply now. Limited slots available.
Welcome to Competitive Training Institute, empowering you with in-demand skills. At Competitive Training Institute, we equip you with practical, job-ready skills that open doors both locally and internationally. Whether you're aiming to become a qualified caregiver, certified plumber, skilled automotive mechanic, or want to learn a foreign language like French, Arabic, or German, and many more, we've got the right course for you. Our hands-on training, guided by experienced instructors and aligned with market demands, ensures you're ready to compete and succeed in today's job market. We don't just train, we help you get hired. Our job placement team supports you in finding meaningful work after graduation. We are proudly accredited by NITA, ensuring high standards in all we offer. Ready to begin? Call us on 020-200-192. or 0721-223081, or email us at competitivetraining@gmail.com. Your journey starts here. Let's build your future together.
Join our team at AYTB in partnership with Competitive Manpower. AYTB is seeking qualified candidates for the following positions: Technical Advisor, QA or QC Personnel, Shop Coordinator, Report Organizer, Rotating Equipment Repair Technician, Valve Overhaul Technician, Machining Technician. Contact us today on 0721 50 6627 or 0733 392180. You can also visit us at WANGUTUSI Plaza, Kikorok Road. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@competitivemanpower.com. Apply now. Limited slots available.
Looking for a trusted supplier for all your household hardware needs? Look no further than Competitive Hardware Limited. We provide top quality building materials including cement, all types of iron sheets, paints, PPR and PVC pipes, electric pipes, building grills, BRC and square till in various sizes. Need interior and finishing materials? We've got you covered with gypsum, gypsum rails, marine boards, ceiling boards and tanks of all sizes. For fencing, we stock barbed wire, chain link and wire mesh. And the best part, we offer free countrywide delivery with our fleet of transit trucks and pickups. Your order arrives on time, every time. Visit us in Kitengela along Namanga Highway, opposite 411 stage, or at our branches in Kitisuru and Busia. For enquiries, call us on 020-2688-888 or 0733-666632 or 0721-923248. Competitive Hardware Limited, your reliable hardware supplier.